NBA All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis. Did you have fun? Did you care? Well, you saw some history in Indy last night. The highest scoring NBA All-Star game ever. The first team to ever go over 200 points. 211, in fact, for the Eastern Conference as we return to East versus West for the first time since 2017. 6 years without East versus West. We had team captains and an NBA All-Star draft. There was some hope maybe it would spark motivation and pride once again. We got rid of the Elam ending. That was confusing. Just a focus on good and fun basketball. And there were some fun moments. But I think you really felt either way about the All-Star game, depending on what your expectations were entering said All-Star weekend in Indianapolis. We start with the game, then our reactions. 211-186, the final score for the East. The West closed as a 2.5-point favorite. The East plus 118 on the money line, a 7.5-point favorite at the halftime break as they led 104-89, the first ever team to score more than 200 points. Donnie, the total worked its way down. It was 362.5 when we last spoke on Friday. It closed at 356. No matter, it goes well over 397 combined points. We almost hit the 400-point benchmark between the two clubs.
Yeah, and the interesting part coming into it was the fact that there was going to be no Elam ending, which means no cap on the fourth quarter. So some people right off the bat might say, you know what, I'm just going to take the over because now I have an uncapped fourth quarter, and we know that these teams tend to run away, which means we get a lot of offense in the All-Star games, and we understand that. But the reason for the dip was not because nobody forgot the rules and why, there's an Elam ending. It's that the talk behind the scenes was, look, we're not going to play defense like it's the 1990s in the NBA and the game's going to be 98-97. We knew that's not going to be the case. You always want your athletes to show up because that's what the All-Star game is for. But some of that talk from the background was like, okay, we're not going to just make a mockery and throw alley-oops left and right, which they did, or shoot from half-court three-point shots, which they did. We're going to play a semblance of a basketball game, which, again, might cut off, Ben, about 10 or 15 points from the total, which you wouldn't miss out on, but enough to maybe hit an under or keep that in a 160 to 140 realm, something like that, right? Well, that didn't happen at all, and you knew it right away.
Yeah.
A 53-47 first quarter, multiple guys making 10-plus three-point shots. One guy even scored 50 points in Karl-Anthony Towns and wasn't even the MVP in this game. We'll get into the, what we think is going to happen, but I do ask this question.
Right.
The All-Star game, the need for it, I don't think there is. And maybe the All-Star game would be better, Ben, if you just played it after the season. That's sort of like an All-Star weekend where it's just a lot about fun and parties and one last shot at your players here. You can have some fun before you take that summer break into training camp. I don't know, but I know this. A lot of people watching on their couch, you get instant reaction on social media. I didn't see very many people saying this is such a great All-Star game. I can't wait to watch next year. No. It's almost a wide pan of it saying, we got to get back to just playing basketball, which is always interesting. The people will let you know right away, Ben.
Absolutely so. And that has been the reaction. My only hesitation is, what did you expect? Did you expect to see defense? Did you expect to see intensity? Did you expect to see effort? LeBron James, after the game, was happy with the performance because nobody got injured. And maybe that's where it is. An exhibition game in the middle of a season before teams reemerge for their final 25-plus games into the playoff push. Commissioner Adam Silver not happy after the game as he awarded the All-Star Game trophy to the Eastern Conference and said, well, East, you won and you scored 211 points. I get it. The players don't care, and maybe we shouldn't really care about the level of effort in the game as well. But what did you hope for? What did you expect? I actually thought there were some fun moments when Luka tried to dunk off the backboard by himself and got stuffed by the rim. Damian Lillard picked up the basketball and then hit a half-court three in stride. I mean, those are the fun moments from an NBA All-Star game, if that is your expectation. Again, we will talk about the significance in just a moment. But Damian Lillard, 8th NBA All-Star game in his career. First for the Eastern Conference. Of course, it's been non-East versus West the last 6 seasons. And his first NBA All-Star game MVP award, 39 points, a team high for the Eastern Conference. 11 of 23 from beyond the arc. 11-1 to win the NBA All-Star Game MVP award, named after Kobe Bryant before the game got started last night in Indy. And speaking of in Indy, Tyrese Halliburton Halliburton, also great last night, 32 points. Pacers fans wanted him to win the MVP award. Dame got booed when he was presented the award on stage by Ernie Johnson.
Yeah, and that's the good part about it. Like, the crowd will let you know right away. And of course, you're going to get booed there winning an MVP when you thought the hometown kid was supposed to get that there. And certainly showing out. And the reason why I picked Steph Curry to win MVP in this game was similar to the thought process behind, look, there's going to be a lot of people dunking the basketball, but the ultimate equalizer is doing something ridiculous, like making over 10 3-point shots in a basketball game, which Halliburton and also Dame did. So you knew they were going to go toe-to-toe. Karl-Anthony Towns out here just knocking down 50 points on one side, coming off the bench and only playing 28 minutes and shooting 35 times might be even more impressive at that point here. But overall, like, it's a showcase and we get that. But also the questions start to arise here, Ben, when you take a look at why the All-Star game is played. Back in the day, it was like, hey, we need an extra bump for the NBA, a revenue night. And my goodness, like a kid in Portland or a kid maybe back in the day in New Orleans, they don't get to see these guys on a day-to-day basis. And for one day every year, all the stars are on the court, and it's a lot of fun. And also, these guys were rivals back then. So a lot of things have changed over the past 20, 30, and 40 years where we have the NBA League Pass. We see these guys every single night. Social media is there with hundreds of clips of these guys from what they were doing. So now you take a look at the All-Star game. Hey, look, everybody's there. And you can tell from the arena itself, from opening introductions all the way through, it sounds like it's a golf clap because we've all been there, done that. And certainly it's a corporate environment at these games. Is there a need for an all-star game? Maybe not. But as long as the NBA goes like, hey, I don't care if you guys like it or not, we make an extra $10 million every time we put the all-star game on clear in our pockets. They're going to continue to do that, and rightfully so. Now the NFL goes, we could put on a Pro Bowl that's going to be higher ranked than any, actual NBA game and or all-star game or even finals game. But even they realize, look, it doesn't do the sport any good. Yes, we're making money, but it's a bad look. I'm interested to see if the NBA does make changes. And also, Ben, can they make any changes, right?
I mean, we've looked at a lot of changes to all-star formats in a variety of sports, the NHL, the NFL that we'll get to in just a moment, even Major League Baseball that I believe has the best all-star break, all-star weekend type of festivities capped off by an all-star game. They've made changes to that because they tried to add significance. The winner of the all-star game got home field advantage in a World Series. People are like, it's still an exhibition. Let's not determine the most important award in this sport by an all-star game. All of that is understood. I wonder what the change would be for the NBA. As we look at the stats last night, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over his points prop finishing with 31. He was 7 of 10 from deep. Last year, Jason Tatum set the All-Star game record with 50 points. He won the MVP award. This year, Cat had 50 as well off the bench, 35 field goal attempts. Oftentimes, Donnie, we had seen either Elam ending or just all-star game format, East versus West. The final 2 minutes, the final 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, as the guys were trying to win an actual game, that defensive intensity does ratchet up. Not the case last night. Karl-Anthony Towns, I think, took the final 10 shots of the game for the Western Conference, but ties an all-star game record with a 50-piece. So, Donnie, if we are going to change the All-Star game format, and we'll get into All-Star weekend on the other side of the break, what would that change be that's different than what we see now? That would be my only question of how the format would even move.
Yeah, and that's the big question of all, because money doesn't motivate anymore. It used to be a long time, and equated to any All-Star game in any sport. Like the Pro Bowl in the NFL, where you got to go to Hawaii, it was like, man, I need that $100,000 check, man. That's a big deal for me. I'm going to take this serious because I believe you got like an extra $50,000 if you won it, and they took it really seriously. You're going to tell a guy that has a contract for $300 million and another shoe contract for $100 million, hey, we'll give you an extra $1 million if you win. No, he's going to party all weekend long, relax, and play the game he wants to. That's just the fact of life now in the NBA, Ben.
And some people were not happy with the snowy and wintry conditions in Indianapolis, this nation's best sports hosting city around the country. More from NBA All-Star Weekend. What happened on Saturday? Next. NBA All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis. We just talked about the All-Star game. We'll talk about the weekend overall and what might be coming in the future if any changes are on the horizon to the game itself, to All-Star Saturday night. But before we get to Saturday, let's go to Friday. Donnie Rightside and I, a couple of Rising Game Challenge sharps. As we correctly predicted the final matchup, Donnie went with Team Detlef Schrempf to pull off the upset over Team Tamika or whoever it was that had Victor Wembanyama and everybody in there. It was Detlef versus Jalen Rose, the team that I expected to win, and Jalen Rose's team did. Plus 310 was that number. But, Donnie, you and I seeing the board clearly to enter All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, it was nice. You want to take some long shots out there. You want to root for some home teams here, which the Pacers did themselves very well here. And it was surprising that Team Detlef did pick up a victory here. So I was feeling that good mojo. But look, sometimes talent does win out in the end, but loved it. Detlef, maybe they can even raise a banner up there like, hey, second place, be fantastic up there in Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
With a bunch of G League guys that Donnie didn't even know. Team Detlef Schrempf taking in the home cooking of Indianapolis under the Pacers legend. And then Donnie correctly predicted the skills challenge winner because of the home floor advantage for Team Pacers. I had Team All-Stars, a crushing half-court shootout where I had no idea what Scotty Barnes was doing. I thought the highlight of Saturday night was Stephen Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu. It was that head-to-head three-point contest and shootout where Sabrina came out shooting from the NBA three-point line and hit 26. That number would have put her into the finals of the overall three-point contest. It's just that one of the best shooters in the sport went up against the best shooter the sport has ever seen in Stephen Curry, who hit 29 when he was up in his round to take the contest. It felt really quick, though, Donnie. It felt rather short. I thought maybe a best of three. It was just one and done. Steph had 29, Sabrina 26. I thought it was a really cool event that could be expanded in years to come.
Yeah, no, and it can be expanded in the years to come because at least it gives us something a little bit fresh here. The one thing that we do like is the three-point shooting contest because, quite frankly, the NBA now is a full three-point shooting league. I just wanted to see, like, why would Steph Curry, who's lining up with Sabrina to go one-on-one, I thought the winner of that should then advance into the actual three-point competition itself because it would have been awesome if Sabrina would have upset Steph Curry. A little buzz around Twitter and X out here going like, you know what? You got to tune into this. Sabrina just knocked off Steph and is now looking to take down the entire plate of NBA superstars here. That would have been interesting to watch it play out at this point, but it certainly didn't disappoint, which I didn't think it would. The moment that you told me that we were going to be shooting from the three-point line, the NBA three-point line on both sides, I didn't care if Sabrina made three of those because I just wanted to see the matchup from that distance here, and she did very well, which was great, but again, you're going up against the ultimate marksman in the history of the game toe-to-toe here. We expected Steph to win, and he did it clutch by making a couple shots late, but that was a good performance all the way around, something that didn't fall flat there, which was nice.
Shout out Sabrina Ionescu as well, putting herself out there in NBA All-Star Weekend, one of the stars of the W, because there could have been a lot of negativity. Instead, the event itself was sensational, and that was highlighted in the social media realm. The actual broadcast and a certain individual known as the Jet, a different story. When you're live on national television, lay off the juice on the outside. As we keep it rolling through NBA All-Stars Saturday night, Damian Lillard goes back-to-back in winning the three-point contest himself. 26, a big weekend for Dame. All-Star Game MVP, three-point contest winner for the second straight year, becoming just the seventh player in NBA All-Star history to win back-to-back or repeat as a three-point champion.
Yeah, it's a good performance there. And again, coming into it, Dame Lillard has been struggling from three-point range in NBA games. But the one thing that you do know, it's a different sport that you guys play, right? From LA Fitness to rec ball to, high school basketball. And the thing I always get a kick out is when they watch these guys warm up, it's like, you're actually amazed they even miss a single shot here. But still, the pressure is on the biggest stage. The lights are dimmed down. The court's all lit up. You still have to perform out there. So it's pretty impressive that Dame went out there and just lit the lamp all the way around here because you see every once in a while great shooters not perform in those moments. Why? Because it's just different there. So you're not in an NBA flow at this point. You are out there and you know what the pressure is, and he performed admirably there in that.
The courts are getting too weird. NBA in-season tournament, one of the weirdest things you'll ever see on the hardwood. All of NBA All-Star Saturday, it was completely dim everywhere. Yes, they were in Lucas Oil, a football stadium that they tried to make feel more like an NBA arena or at least a basketball arena. But the court was glowing. It was super weird colors. I felt like it had to be distracting for the overlay on the actual floor itself. Dame did enter as the favorite to make it 2 consecutive three-point contest victories. He cashed that plus 450 ticket. The odds-on favorite to make it 2 straight dunk contests, Mac McClung, minus to 40. It wasn't easy for Mac McClung, who was by far the best dunker of the night, because Jaylen Brown has the name brand and the notoriety. Somehow he got into the finals, but Mac McClung does edge him out for a second consecutive dunk contest championship. He was asked afterward, would you make it 3 straight next year? And he said, maybe. I don't think it's Mac McClung's choice, though, Donnie. The NBA is going to come calling. We need you back out there, my man.
Yeah, exactly. So he gets sent back down to the G League, and I'm pretty sure he gets a FedEx letter that goes, you will continue to stay in the G League. You will continue to be paid, and we look forward to your participation next year in the NBA dunk competition. Yeah. Should you renege on this and not want to actually go to the NBA All-Star game, you will be released next Monday morning. Have a good week, Max. So basically, that's the letter that he's getting at this point now. But quite frankly, I love him in it. He's fun to watch dunk. He's certainly creative here. We've talked about it for years and years and years. The superstars need to get into this dunk contest. The thing I love about it is all the NBA superstars talk about we need superstars to get in it, and then they just send Jaylen Brown, who, again, I'm not saying Jaylen Brown can't be explosive and be great in a dunk contest, but when you're talking about the great dunkers in the NBA, Jaylen Brown doesn't come up for me at all. So even when we were talking about on Friday, hey, who do you got in the dunk competition? I actually had to go to Google and type in Jaylen Brown. Like, that's not the same Jaylen Brown. He must spell it a little bit differently. It's supposed to be Jaylen Brown. Yeah. I never heard it was in the dunk competition. And certainly he was uninspiring in the dunk competition, to say the least. But the fun of NBA All-Star Weekend is, let's just say if the top 4 superstars in the NBA got together in a dunk competition, it would generate a lot of buzz and there'd be a lot of fun. You can have unbelievable dunkers, but if we don't really know who they are, why don't you just get the top 5 dunkers worldwide who nobody ever heard of and just put them in the NBA dunk competition? That defeats the whole point. We want to see the superstars on the biggest stage do it. And until we get that, the dunk contest is going to struggle, Ben.
Jaime Jaquez was sensational in the opening round. Jacob Toppin did a crazy dunk in front of his brother Obi, who had won. I mean, the second dunk Jacob Toppin had to get like a 48, Jaylen Brown. It was crazy. It was crazy. Jaylen Brown put on a glove because we've made fun of his inability to dribble with his left hand, and the judges were like, oh, sensational, sensational. Those judges stink. The atmosphere stunk. They need to change the dunk contest. Mac McClung was great. No shot at Mac McClung, who also had dunk after dunk with some creativity we had never seen before. I think we're all spoiled by Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine back in 2016 in Toronto. We'll never forget that. It always sticks in the craw. We want that to be the case. We want the dunk contests of the 80s and the 90s and Dominique and all of that and MJ from the free throw line. Those days are gone. So when we speak about the NBA All-Star Game, the format of the weekend, what changes can be made? Star power for sure in the dunk contest. I think that's the number one thing. We've always said that, though, for the past decade. I'm not sure we're going to get it ever. I don't really know why. There is the risk of injury, but it doesn't seem like the most taxing thing for the guys that are actually out there. Maybe I'm incorrect. I've never been able to even touch rim. For the actual game format itself, if you're going to break it down even further from the exhibition that it is, does it start to resemble the Pro Bowl games where it's not even football? It's not even two-touch football, really. It's the flag football event. But this isn't really an opportunity to do that in basketball. Would it be 3-on-3? Would it be a tournament of the sort? Would it just be a skills challenge all throughout the weekend with some other fun and quirky events? Outside of making the guys play defense, I don't really know what else can be done to change the format.
No, there's nothing you can really do at this point. And that's why we don't need an NBA All-Star game anymore, but we'll continue to have them because it makes money and it's programming. And you say, hey, what's the highest rated show of the night between males for 18 to 35? Of course, it's going to be the NBA All-Star game, and that's all they really care about. Now, I agree with you here. Like, if you just take the game out itself on a Sunday and just make it an All-Star weekend where you see all the skills challenges. Just have the top NBA players do those skills challenges. People will tune in, people have fun, but we understand that it's lighthearted. Nobody was tuning into the Pro Bowl waiting for hard-hitting action football, but we at least wanted to see guys get tackled to the ground in a semblance of a football game. So when you went to the Pro Bowl games, which I don't like, and again, it's not my demographic anymore, but I'm pretty sure if I was a kid, Ben, and my favorite player was Jalen Hurts and I was 14 years old, I'm going to be tuning in on Sunday to see him in a flag football game because that's cool. When I was growing up, it was, wow, man, Dan Marino, Randall Cunningham in a skills competition where they're throwing against moving targets. I thought that was great. This time around, me being in my mid-40s, I'd probably say this is dumb, I'm not watching, but again, it's not my target demographic. But also, Ben, The fact of All-Star Weekend is now turned into All-Star Week. We're going to stop playing basketball on a Thursday and then pick it up the next Thursday because these guys need a break. But yet again, they're not really playing basketball over the weekend as well. I could see still having an All-Star Weekend, but kick it right back up on Tuesday. Like have that one down day, which is today on a Monday, and go right Tuesday. I bet you there's less of a, oh my goodness, because you know what? Tomorrow on Tuesday, when we're looking for NBA basketball, don't have it. And then Wednesday, we're looking for NBA basketball, don't have it because of it got held up for this All-Star game, which nobody seems to care about anyway at this point. That's where we're heading in this spot.
It gives us a lot of time to reset and look at where the NBA stands. Every team has played at least 53 games of the 82 in a regular season. As Doc Rivers said for his Milwaukee team, when they lost in Memphis on Thursday night, we had some guys here, some guys in Cabo. At least the guys get to Cabo now for this short week. Back on the early line in just a few.